Da, 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 da. Hey, so this is a TVZ in the Masters League between Hylian and Nebbish. Trakhalian. Hello, my name is Trakhalian. Trakhalian. It's very, I don't know, it feels German. Even though it doesn't feel German. So yeah, I'm trying recording with Fraps again, even though long ago I switched to Taxi because Taxi's broken now, and I don't know how I broke it or how I can fix it, and it's pissing me off. So Nebbish has really been climbing the skill level of the universe by sticking to, like, picking a solid, fast, expandy build and sticking with it in all three matchups. I suppose in TVP we're still not fast expanding, but we already found the solution to TVP long ago. So in TVZ, it's this 1 racks late gas, like 15 gas. Nick gets, just early, the beginning of 15. I get it at the end of 15, sometimes at 16. Second depot, orbital. And then he's going to go for a command center and then a factory, usually on the low ground, helping him to wall in. And then 2 more racks really quick while he gets a reactor on the first racks and tech lab as soon as he can on the second rack. So the timing of the way it works out is you have to really get that second racks as soon as your factory is done. So you cut marine production after 3 marines. And the reason that it's important to get that second rack super quick is because if your first Hellion scouts incoming roaches, you want to already have a racks with a tech lab and get the marauder out before the roaches arrive. Because usually 1 marauder in a bunker with SCVs can handle roaches pretty easily. So Nick comes down to poke with his first marine. We've been, since Nick has been trying to play as Zerg against me as Terran, he's really kind of realized how important it is to not let the Zerg just economically do whatever the heck he wants. Like, we've always known that, theoretically, that the more money you let the Zerg spend on his economy, the more it compounds and allows him to get more and more income quicker. But it's you don't fully appreciate it until you've played Zerg and gone for 12 early lings and then noticed that at 8 minutes you have 10 less workers, even though you only went for a couple of larvae on drones. And anyway, so that's why Nick did that early poke, but it didn't really seem to work very well. His tech lab's coming obviously too late. If he had been hit by roaches, he would have lost. And it looks like here comes a billion lings. Really weird from the Zerg to be this obsessed with this many lings early on, because Nick is clearly getting Hellions. And so this should be a pretty huge advantage for Nick as long as he can wall and bunker here before those lings make it up. He's pulled workers and he's leaving them off, and that's kind of crap, but that's not the end of the world. Like I said, economically, a Zerg at 7 minutes, at 8 minutes wants to have 52 workers, and this Zerg is sticking on 35. He made a bunch of lings, now he's transitioning into workers from there, but it really sets you behind to make that many lings. But Nick's kind of overreacting to this, right? Because a small smattering of lings can't really kill him. So he pulled guys off of mining for a long time in reaction to that, and it's really helping the Zerg more than it's helping Nick. And now Nick has cut workers. So yeah, major overreaction. Just because somebody makes 20 Zerglings, I mean, that's something to be afraid of, but it's not like you're about to die fear. It's more like, you know, I better make sure to wall in and bunker. But if you wall in and bunker, you want to be ahead because you resisted this, because you didn't cut workers, and Nick cut workers. So he's looking for 30 SCVs at this time. He has 28. Zerg at 8 minutes wants to have 52. He has 44. Not the biggest deal in the world. He really saved money by not having to get the spines by doing that ling pressure as well. A lot of times, if a Terran can put on early pressure and force lings, then he can also force spines and extra queens. But this Zerg stuck to exactly 2 queens and no creep spread in exchange for getting those lings. So he managed to eke out some lings while saving drones and saving money on fewer queens, fewer spines. So even though it did put him behind, he's still at 41 at 9 minutes, and that's pretty crap. It didn't put him super far behind, and he wasn't really dedicating his whole life to it. Anyway, by 10 minutes, the Zerg usually wants to have his third up and be going on, 60 workers. And this guy has his third up, but worker-wise, he's only got 42, and he's only making 6 more, so that's 48. So yeah, this early laying pressure really kind of cost the Zerg a little bit. But at 10 minutes, Nick wants to have a $3,000 army, including $600 of upgrades. And I don't know if his upgrades are done. He's not going to have +1 in time. He is going to have stim and combat shields and 2 bunkers. So that's going to be $800 of crap. But he's only going to have... He's not going to have a big enough army. He cut some Marines and Marauders in reaction to this. And you can tell by the amount of money he's got up in the bank, too, that he's really kind of cut his army size. It's really funny that an early scare can lead to less army. You'd think if somebody scared you, you'd make more army, but... It really comes down to the workers. Nick only has 42 workers at 10 minutes, whereas with a super quick expansion like this build gets, you can have 52 if you do it perfectly, and you can have, 48 if you do it pretty well, and 44 if you do it average. So to have 42, Nick's cut a lot of workers, and his income is suffering because of that. And because his income is suffering, his army size suffered, and there you go. So both of these guys kind of got set back by this. Really weird. Incoming mutas, this is generally good. Nick likes to go for a lot of naked racks instead of reactored racks so that he can add reactors if he sees mutas and add tech labs if he sees roaches. This guy's actually going roach muta, kind of confusing. Nick really wants to have pushed out and taken down the Zerg's third by now, but luckily the Zerg is not really mining from his third, so Nick has correctly assessed that this Zerg wants to be aggressive and deny Nick's third, so he's not going to go down and try to deny the Zerg's third. Nick only gets like 2 turrets until he sees the mutas. In fact, he doesn't even have a turret on his natural at all. So the only real goal is to make sure the mutas can't wipe out all your SCVs. Other than that, mutas don't really do damage, so you can let them beat up on your buildings all they want. So now that he knows mutas are coming, hopefully he's going to go more Marine heavy and throw down enough turrets to be resistant to this crap. At 12 minutes to have 46 workers, this is the second game in a row I've watched from Nick where he's having a lot of trouble producing. Like right now he's not producing workers. I think Nick has said that an epiphany he had about playing Terran is that while it's extremely important to get a lot of early workers, there's also a lot to be gained by cutting workers as soon as you get to certain points in the game. And I think he's overdoing it. I think he cut workers too early. I think 46 workers at 12 minutes is not nearly enough. He should have at least 52. But usually 12 minutes is when you hit 70, 72 and cut. So he should really be on 3 base with 72 workers, and he's on just barely 3 base with 48. So massive problem here. And you can really see it reflected in the army size. 14-minute army size benchmark is 7,000 for Terran. It's almost 14 minutes already, and Nick's army size is really small, buddy, really small. So this muta harass is making Nick probably pretty super frustrated. But what's frustrating about it is his army size at this point. He's got such a tiny army that it makes mutas seem overpowered. But in reality, it's not so much that mutas are a problem as that you've been set behind throughout the whole game. And now you just have no workers giving you no money, and you have an army size problem. So here comes the big see if I can deny your third moment. So he's gonna bait Nick's Marines away from the planetary and then try to knock them down with the Lings. Oh, but it doesn't work. Nick's too spry. He's too wily. He's gonna run back to his PF in time. And now here comes the, oh well, if I can't bait you, I'll just knock down your PF with brute force tactico. Nick has his dude spread in front of this PF pretty well, so it's possible he'll resist this, but again, the Zerg's army size is about double Nick's. So yeah, Nick is able to keep the PF by losing a bunch of army, and that's great. Better to lose some army in exchange for some army. Nick actually is coming out ahead in this fight, so this is good. But now he has no Marines, so he can't prevent the mutas from just running around doing whatever they want, and he never built turrets in that natural. And this income disparity is becoming even more significant as time goes on. So Thor's out, repairing the Thor, Marines coming over, but now overwhelmed by mutas. So in this game, Nick did a good job with positioning. He did a good job with using his units. He made the correct units. He did the right kind of stuff, but he just really lost on pure economy. Full mules at his main, tiny number of workers created, lots of workers lost, and the workers lost comes from the underproduction of turrets, and the underproduction of turrets comes from the lack of income. Because if you have 1,000 minerals in the bank, then you have no problem just throwing down infinity turrets all over your base. It's no big deal. But when you're just barely able to make Thors one at a time, you're not going to waste any minerals on turrets. So this game is basically over, even though it probably continues a lot longer. There's not much coming back from here unless Nick happens to get really lucky with a Doom Drop or the Zerg suicides all his stuff or something. But I don't foresee that happening because, like I said, Nick is rank 6 Masters League. He's playing against pretty good dudes, and you gotta expect pretty good play from pretty good dudes. That's just how the world works. This Zerg is playing pretty aggressive in Econ Light, so Nick really called it early on. 65 workers is a very low number of workers to cut on for Zerg. But it also gives them this huge army ability. So now the Zerg's just going to focus on denying Nick's fourth. Nick's main is going to run dry, Nick's natural is going to run dry, and the Zerg's going to pull him back and forth. Walking around, doing whatever damage you can, not really taking any damage, running away, that kind of stuff. So this Mutiling, Baneling style only really works if you can get an economic lead. Lings do terribly badly against a giant ball army from Terran, especially if you have almost no Banelings like this guy does. But Mutiling, if you have an Econ lead and an upgrade lead, you can really just dominate everything with Mutiling. So yeah, it's very similar to Uber Ups from the Terran's perspective, in that you're really relying on having an economic lead and trading armies often with low tier stuff with lots of upgrades. And that's, the Zerg is doing his equivalent of Uber Ups, and Nick's dying to it. And here comes the Broodlord transition and the end. So that all really came down to this early Ling pressure that Nick just massively overreacted to. Because this is too early in the game to be cutting workers, and Nick's cutting workers in response to this in order to get his wall up before the rocks go down. And that's just going to give the Zerg a pretty big economic lead. So 34 workers to 44, and then he's going to get his third down, and Nick's not going to be able to make the push he's used to making because he doesn't have the army that he's used to having, because he cut army and cut workers in order to get the wall up as quick as he could, and now he's got money piling up that he can't really spend because he doesn't have the infrastructure in place that he normally would be throwing down at this point. He can't, this build cuts early tech in exchange for a powerful low tier army that you can deny the Zerg's third with. And if the Zerg is going low tech and you're going low tech and he's just doing it better, it becomes really hard to get out of your base. So Nick's going to stay home and defend the third, which is the transition he's always said that I should do when faced with an aggressive Zerg. But at this point, 14 minutes, like we said, there's a benchmark at 14 minutes. The Terran is shooting for at least 7,000, 9,000 if you're really greedy, and Nick has got 4,300. So nowhere near what he wants. I mean, this is probably like 5,500, including upgrades and bunkers and turrets, but it's still not anywhere near 7,000. And there you go.